Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Got a packed show today, but first, just some news and notes. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about it later in the show. Gators have some COVID issues. They're hoping to practice today and still play. We'll find out more later in the afternoon today, I'm sure. Also, last night, the Tampa Bay Rays are one game away from going to the World Series. Braves take a 2-0 lead on the Dodgers. But now we're going to go to one of our great sponsors right here on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to be joined by Wendy Wiggs from PRP Regeneration Specialists. Good morning, Wendy. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, you probably had a late night because your husband's Johnny Wiggs, former Gator pitcher, the head baseball coach at Santa Fe College. One of his studs was pitching for the Rays last night, Ryan Yarbrough. So I'm sure y'all stayed up hooping and hollering and watching that game.
Well, he definitely did. I did go to bed a little bit earlier, but he gave me a full report this morning when we woke up, and we're excited. I guess if the Yankees can't be in it, we're excited that the Rays, and we're happy for Ryan. He's been doing a great job.
Absolutely. Well, Wendy, we wanted to bring you on the show because your business here in town helps a lot of people with injuries, athletes, former athletes, old people that just have issues that they're hurting. It's called PRP Regeneration Specialists. First of all, let everybody know what PRP stands for.
Absolutely. It stands for platelet-rich plasma.
Platelet-rich plasma. Okay, so if let's use me for example. I'm a former athlete. I got a lot of aches and pains. If I come to you and let's just say I got shoulder issues, don't really know what's wrong with my shoulders. It could be rotator cuff, who knows? But if I just want to come there, how can you make me feel better?
First, I need to probably explain a little bit more about what PRP is, and then I would go back to your consult question. But platelet-rich plasma is basically derived from a person's own blood. So this is actually a natural procedure or treatment used to heal damaged tissue. So that's kind of the science behind it. When I draw blood from a person, I actually separate all the red blood cells out of the plasma. And then we're able to take what's called platelets, which are contained in the blood, and they're actually the natural healing properties of the blood. We concentrate those 5 to 6 times above normal. So we get into the millions. And the reason that's important is because, say you injure yourself. When you initially had an injury, it's the platelets that go in the area and heal and repair the damaged tissue. You know, their body sends off all these signals, and our bodies are amazing how they can heal themselves. But sometimes the body isn't able to heal that area all the way. And so that's what continues pain and discomfort, say, in your shoulder. So the idea behind platelet-rich plasma is now that we can concentrate your platelets, which are the healing properties of the blood, and inject them right into the area of injury, it immediately starts healing and repairing that damaged tissue. It's amazing how the body works, and all these signals take off almost immediately after the injection. And another thing I think that makes what we do a little bit different is we use ultrasound guided injections. So I use pretty much state-of-the-art ultrasound machine to be able to diagnose and then treat, say, a rotator cuff tendon tear or a knee ligament tear like MCL or LCL. So I'm able to see that, and then I can watch the needle actually go right into that damaged area and inject. And that's something different that you can't do with a steroid. Number one, I will just say that steroids are degenerative. They actually can cause tissue atrophy, and basically it's more of a Band-Aid. for temporary use. It's not a long-term fix. Where when you inject platelet-rich plasma, this sometimes can be a permanent fix for an injury. And that's kind of the difference. And it's extremely safe. It comes from your own blood, so there's no chance of any kind of adverse reaction. And the platelets also contain antibacterial properties in them. And so I've never in 3 years had an incidence of infection or any adverse effect. So those things are really, really important. It's a great treatment option for tendonitis even. And so the good thing is that people can get back within the matter of days or weeks to doing their normal activity. The healing process takes time. So it might take, 3 or 4 weeks to really start seeing the benefits of the treatment. But the fact that it's making that tissue healthier and stronger is really a benefit to somebody. I think one of the pictures that came over from Japan that was really popular, he actually got PRP in his elbow before he came to the United States, and that became like a big deal. They thought he was injured, and he said, no, I just did it for prevention. Before I tear my UCL, I'm going to get PRP to make that tendon stronger. So I think, not only does it treat, but it actually can help strengthen these overuse injuries that Johnny tends to see a lot with these pitchers. They've been pitching since they're 6 or 7 years old, and now they're pitching year round. And so they're coming in needing Tommy John surgery at age 18, where that used to be, major league type surgery and older, pitchers. So they're seeing these injuries a lot sooner. And this would be like a perfect candidate for regenerative medicine or PRP. So because that way they can avoid surgery, which only can sometimes create more scar tissue in the area, and they can get back to playing and they're going to be stronger for it. So it's really a beautiful thing. And I'm really excited to be able to be one of the first people to offer it here in Gainesville, Florida. I think initially there was a physician over at Shands doing that. Now they're actually using it intraoperatively as well to help the healing process after surgery or during surgery. But it actually speeds up the healing process after surgery. So I think that will become more and more popular as time goes on. And then maybe some people haven't heard about it, but you will start hearing about it. So I was really excited to be on today to share a little bit about what we do and how we can help people.
Absolutely. So let's just use an example. Say you have a woman or a man that plays in a tennis league here in Gainesville. They come to you, you draw their blood, okay, now, and from wherever, and then let's just say they have tennis elbow. You're going to inject, what are you doing with this blood once you draw it? How long does it take? Do you shoot it back into their elbow the same day, or they come back? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So usually I'll do an initial consultation with somebody just to be able to get an idea of their injury or their problem. And sometimes we'll take a look at it with the ultrasound during that visit. In some cases, I can go ahead and treat at that same visit, but generally if we're doing platelet-rich plasma, that person's there for about an hour and 30 minutes total. The treatment obviously doesn't take that long, but we do draw their blood just like a regular lab draw. If you go to Quest and get your blood drawn, it's similar. It's done from the arm. And the thing that makes PRP a little bit different too is we use all FDA approved equipment that is all sterile. So again, I will mention I've never had an infection, and I think it's because I use the proper equipment to make PRP. And then there's a special spinning process. So yes, there's a 3-step spin that we use, which is very unique. And basically each step is removing red blood cells. And then the last 2 steps are actually concentrating those platelets. And they had to prove the system I use to the FDA that every single time they got 5 to 6 times concentrated PRP. And that's why that's what platelet rich, the rich part means it's concentrated. And then plasma mean it comes from your blood. And we get well into the millions. So a normal platelet count, just to give you an idea, is around 200 to 400,000. So multiplies times 5 or 6. So that's, to me, just amazing that we can even do that scientifically. And then as soon as the product is injected, so yes, I will come back then. We'll take a look with ultrasound. I'll kind of review again where the person's pain is, because sometimes I don't just treat the joint. It might be the area, the tendons surrounding that joint, which is really important to help strengthen that joint as well. And so I might mark out exactly where we're going to go, and then I take my ultrasound, and then using sterile technique, we look with the ultrasound, we see where we're going to inject, and then we inject the plasma right into the area of injury. So it's very specific. It's very individualized, so I don't treat two people alike. It depends on the person, their problem, and their pain. They do not need an MRI before they come to me. So that's a bonus too. Save money. Don't need an X-ray. That's really not helpful. Ultrasound is real time, so it really gives us an idea of what's going on right this minute. We can identify tears, arthritis, and other issues. And then once those platelets are actually injected, within 10 minutes, 70% of all those growth factors and cytokines from the platelets are released. I tell my patients, they're like little suitcases, these platelets. And as soon as I inject them, they open up and they spill out all these, like I said, growth factors and cytokines that stimulate that whole healing process. So it signals the whole body, hey, there's an injury here. We got to go here and heal it. And then we put millions of growth factors and cytokines right in that area, so that it's like superpower healing. And it's basically using the own body's natural healing process. We're just kind of amplifying it. And our patients really do not experience any discomfort with the treatment, or minimal. And a lot of people are scared of needles. They're probably afraid to get treatment. They want to be put out. But what also makes us unique is we use laughing gas. And the laughing gas is administered by the patient, so they can breathe as little or as much as they want during the procedure. And basically it really helps with relaxation and helps with pain. They never get knocked out, so they can move around if I need them to. But it really does help to reduce the anxiety associated with the treatment. And the good news is it's out of their system within 5 minutes. They can drive home. So therefore, there's never been a need, to have a driver. That's, an issue for some people. And so we really try to make it as comfortable as possible, the whole treatment process. And, patients usually, because of my spinning process, we remove down to less than 1% of red blood cells. That makes a big difference after treatment. Patients do not typically experience more pain after treatment. And that's a bonus too. So you're not going to be any worse. Sometimes with shoulders, you're kind of achy and sore, because I do sometimes a couple injections there. But usually with knees or other areas, I treat hips, plantar fasciitis, ankles, finger joints, elbows, shoulders, obviously. So I'll do pretty much SI joints, hamstring tears, Achilles tendonitis. So there's a lot of uses for PRP, and because it's so safe and easy, to use, I think it's a great treatment option for athletes and even non-athletes, people that just want to be able to do their job. Some people have very manual labor jobs. I treat housekeepers. People that have to work for a living. This is a great option because they don't want the downtime of surgery.
Yeah, we're speaking with Wendy Wiggs. Her business is PRP Regeneration Specialists here in Gainesville, one of our great sponsors. We got a Facebook Live question for you here, brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. Rick wants to know, is the PRP covered by insurance and Medicare?
No, not currently. So this is, an out-of-pocket expense. We do have what's called Care Credit, which makes it affordable for our clients. That's no interest payments. If they pay it back within 6 months or a year, they don't have to pay any interest. So it's same as cash. It's a medical credit card, basically. Doesn't put a ding on your credit. You can use it for pets and dental work as well. So that's one way that can be very affordable. And I'll just mention also prolotherapy is another treatment that I use for especially like tendonitis, or maybe even kind of a diagnostic to see if we're in the right area. that only costs $150. So that's very affordable. And I can use Johnny as an example because I just treated it. He sprained his ankle and didn't get better within a week or two. So I said, you can't be limping around. You know what I do for a living. So I brought him in the office and treated his ankle, and he was able to be pain-free within a matter of days. And you can look on my Facebook page also at PRP Regeneration Specialists and see before and after photos. And we have a lot of testimonial videos on there, people that have had their knees treated or other areas, shoulders. And the nice thing is, again, this sometimes is permanent healing, but he's always had a problem with his ankles. So we're only going to strengthen those ankle tendons for him. I do treat a lot of tennis players, tennis elbow. I treated one tennis player. She actually heard the fascia rip in her foot. And basically she went to orthopedics and they put her in a boot, and she heard about me. So she immediately came over and we treated her that day. And she was out of the boot and playing tennis without pain in 1 month after her fascia tear. And the orthopedics just couldn't even believe she was able to do that. And so now she's been back to me for her elbow. We just treated that. I've treated her knee. So, we have a lot of great things. We also have placental stem cells. It's really called placental tissue matrix. They're not stem cells, but it's kind of a interesting word with the FDA. So it's placental tissue matrix, PTM for short. And that is something that a lot of the top athletes are using nowadays, because you can go back to running a full marathon within 7 to 10 days. This is what the pro athletes are probably using nowadays. It used to be PRP, but now that we have this placental tissue matrix available, that's probably what they're doing. Of course, price-wise, prolotherapy is $150. PRP runs $700 for one treatment, and placental tissue matrix can run $1,190 to $2,000. So, but you might only need one treatment with a placental tissue matrix, and it may be permanent healing. So I do that a lot on my older clients, really moderate to severe arthritis. Been able to keep people from having knee replacement surgery or hip replacement surgery. So we definitely have affordable price options, and I kind of will determine what I think was best for the person when I see them in a consult. And then I let them make the decision, if this is right for them, and then kind of which way they want to go. Most people, they will do anything to get out of pain.
Yes.
So that is something that will really drive their decision.
Now, you also not only just work on pain and stuff, but if you're just sluggish, don't have a lot of energy, don't feel like getting out of bed and doing anything, you kind of have, I don't want to say you can regenerate your energy, but you do some kind of treatment like that, right?
Absolutely. That falls under the bioidentical hormone optimization therapy that we do for men and women at our office. And this has really been a game changer. I would say, even for myself. I mean, I did a full Ironman last November, and I had a complete ACL tear the year before, had to have surgery, intraoperative PRP, and then I had been doing the hormones. And it's really the testosterone that helps, I think, with not only joint pain, because the joints actually have estrogen receptors on them that are looking for estrogen. And when you fill them, testosterone actually gives off estrogen. When you fill those receptors, actually it decreases pain. So the combination of my treatments, I usually sometimes incorporate physical therapy after treatments, and then the hormones can really get people feeling amazing. I treat a lot of ultra cyclists and marathon runners, people that, really are pushing their body to the limit. And they just love the performance factor. With the hormones, we get them optimized, and they're able to, play harder, ride longer, run further, run faster, because you're also building muscle mass. So that's been huge. And we used to think about, hormone or hormone replacement therapy for just menopausal women. But actually, I'm now treating premenopausal women, and I treat men as young as 35, all the way up into their 70s. So it's definitely been a game changer for my patients.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Wendy, we really do appreciate you taking time to explain this to us. We appreciate you being a sponsor. I think it's very interesting stuff. We've had some Facebook Live questions and comments on here brought to you by Meldon Law. They want to know, A, do you have to have an appointment or can you walk in? Also, B, where are you located?
Yes, so an appointment is necessary. 352-260-4061. And usually it takes about 1 or 2 weeks to get in with me. So a consultation is necessary because we want to talk about the treatment options. And the second question, we are located in the Hale Village right now. So it's use your GPS because that's kind of hard sometimes for people to find us. But we're looking into moving, as I mentioned to you earlier, into larger space. So that's exciting. So we'll be sharing that information on our Facebook page as well, so people can keep up with us a lot through social media. I'm trying to do better with Twitter and Instagram, but definitely Facebook is something we keep up to date. So
good stuff. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Like I said, make sure you take care of your husband's ankle. He's got to be ready for batting practice here pretty soon.
Yeah.
But we appreciate it, and we will talk to you soon, and we will be sending some folks your way. And you also want to let people know that if they mention the podcast, they'll get a free consultation, right?
Correct. That's a $50 value. So I would take advantage of that. And you can come talk with me face to face. We can go over treatment options. We can even take a look with the ultrasound machine, or we can talk about hormones and assess your hormone level. We draw the blood right there to check hormone levels on people. And so, yeah, we can definitely help with energy levels, sleep, libido, and building muscle mass, and actually helps with weight loss as well. So that's definitely something else to check out.
Well, that's good stuff. We appreciate it. Take care. Y'all be safe, and we'll talk to you soon, Wendy.
You too. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Brody Miller, covering the LSU Tigers for The Athletic. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
Hey Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Check out our show, Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell, every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice in Gainesville for all your rug cleaning services.
Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance, Pomodoro Cafe,
Big Mills Cheesesteaks,
MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialists, and Dowling Signs.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. At Celebration Points, where the Gators come to celebrate, with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medici's, Regal Cinemas,
and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators come to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our good friend Brody Miller covering the LSU Tigers. He works for The Athletic. Good morning, Brody. How are you?
I am doing all right, hanging in there. It's been a wild week over here in Louisiana. How are you doing?
No, we're doing well. A big game. LSU's rolling into the swamp. First of all, LSU comes off being the defending national champs. I don't think in the history of college football and defending national champs ever started a season at 1-3. But the Tigers could be staring that right in their face. Your thoughts on the first 3 games that LSU has played?
We all knew it'd be some bit of a step back, right? But you're losing 19 starters. You're losing a lot of talent. You're losing a lot of your coaching staff. Dave Aranda's gone. Joe Brady's gone. You knew there'd be a step back, but still, we still all thought this was still a top 10 football team, somewhere in that range. We still thought this was a 8-2 program, probably getting to a New Year's Six bowl. I don't think there's any scenario where I could have seen 1-2 right now. I thought they'd be 3-0. To be honest, LSU was celebrating the fact that they had this really cupcake schedule to start the year, where you kind of start with 3 winnable games, and then you go into Florida where Miles Brennan gets 3 weeks of kind of, getting used to things. Bo Pelini's new defense gets used to things. The fact that you're 1-2 and your schedule is just now getting difficult is a red flag's kind of understating that, right? So, I don't think there's any scenario I could have seen Bo Pelini's defense getting off to this bad a start. I don't think I ever could have seen just the overall lack of communication. I know they didn't have a spring, but nobody had a spring. And I don't think anyone's looking as problematic as this situation right now, where you have a $2.3 million defensive coordinator. So LSU's in some trouble for sure. But I guess if you're looking for some positives, Miles Brennan has been getting better each week. He is looking solid. That pass attack does look solid. So I think we're going to see some points this weekend.
Yeah, so let's start with the defense side of the ball. As you mentioned, you lose a bunch of good players over there. You lose your defense coordinators now at Baylor. They bring in Bo Pelini. And the only really game that I've watched, because I knew Mississippi State could give LSU fits with Mike Leach's system, I did not know that they were going to play man coverage the entire game. Have they played man coverage? Did they play it the entire game against Missouri as well last week?
Not entirely, but primarily quite a bit. I believe I have the number in front of me there. They're playing man coverage the majority of the time, and they're 13th in the country, I believe, in how often they're playing man coverage. So that is kind of who Bo Pelini wants to be this year. He's kind of trying to build an attacking, get upfield defense that puts pressure on these corners. And I kind of understood it, right, to some extent at the time, because you have Derek Stingley, who I consider probably the best corner in the country. And you still had some 5-star talent, some talented guys in that cornerback group. But, Stingley was hurt last week, so I'm not going to criticize him too much. But the rest of it, it's problematic. So, yeah, I think the main criticism of Pelini isn't just that he's playing man coverage. It's that, like you're saying, when they're getting beat, he isn't adjusting. He's not pivoting. And that's I think that's what has people most worried.
Yeah, so, this is supposed to be the game between the two schools that claim to be DBU. Florida's given up a bunch of yards defensively. Yeah. Personally, they've played well, in my opinion, in the secondary. Guys aren't running wide open. The opponents are making good throws and being great catches. Our problem defensively is up front. Yeah. But the few games that I've watched LSU, dudes are running wide open. So there's got to be some issues there, whether it's miscommunication, technique, whatever it may be. I also read, is Stingley on the injury report? He may not play this week?
Yeah, so I'll start with Stingley. Yes, he kind of had basically what Ogeron called a freak accident. I think from what I understand, he basically just got hurt on the down marker, not even during action of a play, and I believe kind of messed up his ankle a little bit. He's expected to play. He's practicing this week, but he's not quite 100% yet. His father came out and said he's gonna play, but that's something to keep an eye on. But to your other point, absolutely, it is communication, and a lot of that falls on Bo Pelini, because you rewatch that Missouri game. That looks like a team that does not know what they're doing. The linebackers are moving really slowly and timidly, which I believe is them not really knowing what to do and basically trying to do too much and in turn being confused. I think you're seeing, you saw in that first 59-yard touchdown pass where Michael Wilson went completely untouched. You saw the safety thought the corner had it, the corner thought the safety had it. They both just let him go right through. And basically they had a big staff meeting Sunday morning, and it sounds like the mandate from Ed Ogeron was simplify. I don't care if we play one coverage all game, he said. I don't care if we do one thing. Just make sure our team actually knows how to do it. And I'm not saying that's smart or unsmart, but after what we saw Saturday, I think they have to do something to kind of get them on the same page. Absolutely.
So I think everybody agrees LSU's struggling in the secondary. How do you think their front seven has been playing?
So that's a great question, because I think the first 2 weeks I thought, okay, the pass rush looked really good. And the pass rush still does look pretty good in my opinion. I think Ollie Gay suddenly went from a no-name to a early draft pick kind of guy, 6'6" guy. Andre Anthony. I mean, they've had good pass rushers. They're one of the higher pressure rate teams in the country, but by going for more athletic pass rushers, they've actually been sacrificing the run quite a bit. And now you're seeing, I mean, they're one of the worst SEC teams in stopping the run so far this season. And then Ed Ogeron said yesterday, kind of pivoting, he's like, we need some bigger bodies on that defensive line. We need some guys who can maybe hold the edge a little better. So now you're wondering, okay, the one thing you have going well is your pass rush, and they might actually be trying to get some, bigger bodies, more run stoppers there on the D line, which I understand why, but it's just kind of now you don't have anything necessarily you do great. But as for, linebacker, that's, I think I looked at linebackers a borderline strength going into this year. Jabril Cox could have been a 3rd round pick out of North Dakota State. He's a really good player. And Damone Clark's a guy they were hyping as their next, star linebacker. And I think both have had pretty failing grades so far. And I do think, at least on the Missouri tape, when you look at it, that seems to go with them just looking timid and confused. It doesn't look like they're confident out there. And especially Damone Clark, he looks like he is just kind of trying to figure it out. He's confused, and all of a sudden he's getting hit by blocks 5 yards downfield because of it. And I don't know if that's something you can fix in a week. I would assume no, but Cox has had good moments. I mean, he is a really, really talented, really speedy player, but overall that front seven has issues for sure.
Yeah. We're speaking with Brody Miller here on the Titan More Hotline. You can follow Brody at Brody A. Miller on Twitter. He's the LSU beat reporter for The Athletic. Over on the offensive side of the ball, Miles Brennan's played pretty well. I think he was a little shaky that first couple of series against Mississippi State, but gosh, he has the most difficult job in all of college football, following the steps of Joe Burrow. How do you think he's played so far?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that's the part you almost have to start with, right? I mean, LSU is the program that is arguably the most synonymous of power programs of not being able to develop quarterbacks before Joe Burrow. And when Joe Burrow, remember 2018 Joe Burrow, he was okay, and that was still a massive step up. People were thrilled with okay Joe Burrow. So I say that to say, if Miles Brennan was putting up the numbers he was putting up now in 2018, he would be hoisted as some savior, but he's not. And I understand why. It's more complicated than that, but it is unfortunate, like you said. But to answer your actual question, yeah, I think the encouraging thing is that he's getting better each week, right? I think week 1, like you said, he did look timid. He wasn't stepping into his throws. He was a little rattled by pressure. And I mean, I would trust your opinion on this more than mine, but you see that and you almost wonder, that can go two ways, right? It could mean sometimes you just aren't ready for handling pressure, or sometimes, you just have to get used to playing SEC football. And so far he's gotten more comfortable each week, and he actually he's stepping into his throws. He's handling pressure. So you would take that as really positive, but he has by no means faced a defense like Florida. He hasn't gone into a venue like the Swamp. So I think we'll really find out what he is. But yeah, I think you have to be pretty encouraged by just the fact that he's getting better, because it's one of those things you always say, oh, he'll get better as the year goes on, but that's not always the case. So and he's got a good connection with Terrace Marshall, who looks like a 1st-round pick right now. He's got a really good connection with 5-star tight end Eric Gilbert. So those are positives for sure, but I'm sure it'll be a different thing when you're facing athletes like Florida.
When you look at the skill guys around him, it just seems like year in and year out, every one of those dang receivers from LSU, they fit the same mold. They look exactly alike, wearing a single-digit number, and the next guy in line is basically Terrace Marshall, who, if he wasn't eligible to come out last year, he would have probably been a 1st-round draft pick. Just talk about, I know the production's not the same with the entire group, because it's not the same group with Burrow, but how have they performed so far? Yeah,
because, this was supposed to be the number one strength of the team, right? When you had Jamar Chase and Terrace Marshall supposed to be back. And obviously no one's going to really blame Jamar Chase for opting out like he did at the time. But it's still an area that should be your most talented on the roster to some extent, because first off, like you said, you have Terrace Marshall. But your second guy is Racey McMath, who is a pretty solid 6'3", 225-pound athlete. Your third guy now is Kayshon Boutte, who is a top 20 overall player, a 5-star freshman. The 4th, 5th, and 6th guys would probably start on half of SEC teams. So the talent's there. But I will say, the connections there with Marshall right now and Brennan, they look fantastic. They look like they're on the same page. I mean, Marshall has 7 touchdowns in 3 games. It's been pretty fantastic. And the connections there with Eric Gilbert, the tight end, obviously. But other than that, I still think they're trying to get on the same page a little bit. I don't see that same cohesion. And I'm not saying you should compare it to 2019 Burrow's cohesion with those receivers, because that's as good as it gets. But I think that's still getting better a little bit each week. But you're not really seeing anybody step up, aside from Gilbert as that other top receiver. Boudet's going to have a great moment at times, but he's a freshman. He's looking a little raw. McMath has a great moment. He's a freak athlete, but doesn't necessarily have the best hands. I think and John Shea Kirkland's a smaller guy who had an amazing game against Vanderbilt, could take a short pass, make a nice play. But I think you're still waiting for that third guy to really step up. But still, like you said, the way Marshall and Gilbert are playing, you can't really complain.
What's the guy's name now at tight end?
Well, we're still figuring out the correct pronunciation of his first name, but it's Eric Gilbert or Eric Gilbert.
Yeah, number 2, right?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay, what's he listed at? Because he looks like a wideout.
Yes, he is 6'6", 250 pounds. I mean, he is a freak. Yeah.
So he is, and he's a freshman, correct?
True freshman. Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to have 2 6'6", 250 pound,
yep,
extremely athletic tight ends in this game. But yeah, I saw him against Missouri, and I was like, who is that guy? I mean, he runs and catches like a wideout.
I mean, for reference, granted, 5-star tight end, you see those every now and then, but he is the highest rated tight end in the history of any recruiting service. And he is the only tight end to ever win Gatorade National Player of the Year in high school, which basically the point there is he's not really a tight end. He plays tight end, but they were throwing screens to him. I mean, they used him as just an overall playmaker because he's 6'6", 250 and can move. So, the first 2 weeks, they didn't throw to him too much, but you really saw them target him week 3, which shows he's getting more comfortable. And yeah, he's a game changer, and I'm really curious to see what they try to do with him against Florida.
Talk a little bit about the running game and the running backs. You lost Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the Chiefs last year. Who should the Gator fans be looking for?
It's by committee for sure, and I think the thing they're concerned about, or our fans, I should say, are concerned about, is that there's no rhythm there right now. Week 1, they didn't really run the ball often at all until the second half, and it kind of hurt Brennan's rhythm, in my opinion. And then week 2, they actually, granted, it's against Vanderbilt, so I'm not going to make too much of it, but John Emery, another former major prospect, he's a fantastic open play guy he's probably the most talented of the bunch. He ran for 103 yards on 11 carries against Vanderbilt. Really talented. But then Saturday against Missouri, it was a 48-16 pass run split. And I understood the reasoning. They were loading the box. They were giving them looks to pass. I got it. I understand that, but I think that affected how the third down distances they were getting in. I think they should have moved to the run a little bit more. So that's something you got to watch. The offensive line and the run blocking set has been hit or miss, and they haven't even faced a great defense. So I think the run game, they love the running backs, to be very clear. Chris Curry's the main number 1 starter. John Emery, like I said, is a really good talent. And Tyrion Davis-Price had a pretty good game Saturday, and he's kind of a hybrid of a power speed back. So they love all 3 of those guys, but the run game just isn't really that efficient right now. I believe their success rate's 50% right now, which is pretty solid, but again, against not great defenses. So it's a question mark, and I can't tell if that's more on the offensive line or the play calling or what.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. A few more minutes here with Brody Miller from The Athletic. Okay, Coach O, after his press conference, or during his press conference, he said the defense was an embarrassment. Yeah. Him being a defensive-minded head coach, what do you think they do this week different than what they've been doing against the Gators?
It sounds like the number one thing is they are on a mission to try to simplify. And I really think, kind of what I was saying earlier, I think their number one takeaway is that these guys were playing confused and trying to do too much, which is kind of funny, because I think one of his main complaints about the Dave Aranda era, as good as Dave Aranda was that he thought Aranda was a little too complicated at times. And now he brought in Bo Pelini to be more simple. And it sounds like now it's a bigger problem than it was. So maybe that's a coaching thing on Pelini. We'll see. But yeah, I think they go a little more simple. I still think they play man, if I'm being honest. I just think that's kind of who he is. And I don't know if that's going to work against Florida's playmakers, but I think they play pretty simple. I think they go man. And I think the other thing to watch in terms of changes is what do they do with Jacoby Stevens? He's a 6'3", 220-pound safety, but I mean, he's pretty much an outside linebacker, for being honest. I mean, they've always used him in and out of the box, and Ed Ogeron pretty much admitted Monday they had a conversation with him about maybe it's time to use him differently, because 3 years into this experiment, he's just not where he needs to be in coverage as a safety as much as he wants to be one. He wants to go to the NFL as a safety, but it doesn't seem to really be working. So I wonder if going forward, you're actually going to see them use him, I'm not going to say full-time, but primarily as a linebacker. And then your new question becomes, all right, now you might have some less tested safeties out there. So that's one thing to follow.
So what is the vibe like within the LSU Tiger fan base right now, sitting at 1-2 off a national championship year? Are they kind of like, it's okay, we won the national title last year, we'll have a down year? Or are they pissed off?
It's a good question. I think there's a bit of both, because I do think there is a built-in, they're playing with house money this year, right? I mean, after last year, then you add in all the weirdness of 2020. There is, I think, like, the more rational part of the fan base is very much operating under, we just had the best year of our lives. You're replacing 19 starters. Stuff happens, right? But I don't think the majority is the rational part. I think the majority is actually pretty angry. I'm not saying Ed Ogeron is by any means in trouble. He just got a $42 million extension. He just won Coach of the Year. I mean, he's going to be fine for a while. But there is a little frustration, because here's the way you got to look at it as, some of the other hires before, he didn't have that much job security when he was making those hires. But now he has all the job security in the world, and these hires he was making were, he had all the power he wanted. He can do whatever he wanted. And so far, those hires, Bo Pelini, Scott Linehan, some of these guys, so far, I'm not going to make rash judgments, but they're bombing so far. And I think that's what has people worried of, like, all right, you finally give him power and he's making these things. So I think there's a part of the fan base that they're not saying fire him, but they're being like, is he really the coach that we thought could put you in that Alabama Clemson thing? I think that's where the doubt is. So I think there's frustration. I think everyone understands, though, that this was going to be a down year. They just never could have imagined it could be this down.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Brody. What's it like covering Coach O? I laugh every time he's interviewed. I just love listening to him.
It's a great question, because it's a fascinating mix, because yes, he has great sound bites, right? He does say a lot of awesome, hilarious things, and he knows when to play up the character of what he is. I do think, for all of the grudges against Ed Ogeron, he's actually a pretty sharp guy and knows how to play the pieces when he needs to and whatnot. But he's also interesting to cover, because as much as he's playing that up when he needs to, he's actually a really good coach to cover, in the sense that he knows what our job is. He understands that when we ask a question, we're not attacking him. I think Ole Miss era, Ed Ogeron thought people were attacking him. Right. And he did not handle that well. But I think he's learned, when we ask a question, we're just looking for a quote, and he knows how to give a good answer there. He's good at breaking down things for us, but it's tricky, because he's not the offensive play caller. He's not the defensive play caller, but he's good to cover, because he keeps things fun. He's always going to be a story in college football, but at the same time, he understands our job. So it's not as dramatic on a day-to-day basis as probably people think. Yeah.
Good stuff, my man. How can everybody read all your work?
I appreciate that. Yeah, you follow me at Brody A. Miller on Twitter, and subscribe to The Athletic. You can get a $1 per month subscription at theathletic.com/holdthatpodcast. And check us out there.
Good stuff, my man. I appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun. Take care.
Yep, that's Brody Miller. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. We'll be back. We'll wrap up this Wednesday edition.
This is Shane Matthews. Thank you for listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can also check me out on Inside the Huddle with Steve Russell and the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Tune in every Tuesday during football season on WRUF 98.1 FM, 8:50 a.m. at 10 o'clock in the morning, or find us on your favorite podcast platform.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your rug cleaning services.
Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TD Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance,
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security Systems Studios. We're now going to be joined on the Titan MR hotline by JC. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Hey, Shane. Good to be here for a few minutes. How are we doing?
Doing good, JC. You got your Braves hat on.
Yeah,
They go 2-0 over. We're going to have the Braves and the Rays, and
I know
the ratings are going to be horrible, but the people in the South are going to be loving it.
I mean, the networks are thinking we could have had the number 2 network, the 2 market in the country in LA, the 4 market in the country in Houston, and instead they're going to get 25 and 11. So I think it's great. I'm happy for the Rays, man. What a performance! You know, it's just amazing that they've done so well on the pitching the baseball. And last night's game with Atlanta and LA, you're up 7-0. And you end up winning 8-7, and now the Braves are 7-0 in the postseason. So sevens are wild there for the Braves, and I'm really happy for it. They had the 10,000 fans at the ballpark last night for that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Also, the Bills get beat by the Titans, who had COVID issues and hadn't practiced in like 2 weeks and played their best game of the year. Speaking of COVID, JC, Gators had to shut down operations. I'm pretty sure they're going to be back at practice today, hopefully, fingers crossed. Had some positive cases. Again, we don't know what players. It could be, there's 115 kids on the team.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be able to cancel a game if you drop below 53 scholarship players, and then X amount of players at certain positions. But it could be walk-ons for all we know. We don't really know the extent of it. They're not going to let you know for privacy rights, but It is what it is. We'll see if they play or not.
Yeah, and we talked about this for most of the preseason, that something like this could spark, and this is why they started when they did, to give themselves some time if they do have to cancel a game, unlike the Big Ten now, who has to basically go straight through their 8-week season if they have it. And I think they'll play. I hope if the numbers aren't dramatically high, then, like you said, they could get out there and play. 4 o'clock now is a kickoff, so they changed it from 3:30 to 4, and hopefully we'll still have it on. So as far as I'm concerned right now, until we hear otherwise, the game is still being played.
Yeah, and it's you sit back and you think now, Florida's done a tremendous job with the whole COVID-related stuff. I know personally. Yeah. It's almost like, from that time they got sent home in March till they reported back in sometime late July.
Yeah,
they did such a great job where other schools, Clemson and LSU, were reporting, 30 guys have it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Well, now you sit here and you go, well, dang, our guys, we should have just let them all get it back in the summertime.
Well, it's really funny. It's when you have so much behind the scenes, you don't know if it was on the trip that this could have happened, or if it were kids that were left home back here that didn't make the trip, who came back and joined the team when they returned. So let's just hope that for the best. I mean, there's really nothing you can do about this. You just have to wait for the news. I did say while we were going through the week, we anticipate these big games during the week, QB, and I was looking at the NCAA statistical defensive ratings for total defense. Okay, total defense. There are 76 teams playing. Who would you say is rated number 76 in total defense?
It's Ole Miss.
It is Ole Miss. Number 72 is the University of Florida. Number 71 is LSU. Number 65 is Alabama. So there you have Alabama, LSU, and Florida considered defensive powerhouses throughout their history, with the best athletes that college football offers ranked 65, 71, and 72 in total defense, according to the NCAA statistical defensive rankings. So we are not confusing any of these teams with, Minka Fitzpatrick and Eddie Jackson and Reuben Foster and Jonathan Allen and Ashawn Robinson and great players that have played and are now in the NFL. But hopefully some guys will emerge, and that's what we're waiting to see, right? We're waiting to see if anybody can emerge and make a splash defensively for any of these teams I just mentioned.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Nobody's going to step up. Nobody.
No. Your team is dead last in the country in forcing 3 and outs in all of football. It's because the style of play has changed. The rules have changed. I'm telling you. Now,
talked about it.
I think Alabama will play a little bit better defense this week because of the style Georgia plays offensively. But these other teams that are throwing it all over the place, it's just with the rule changes, it's impossible to stop people. And I'm gonna stick by that. And I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see anything changing.
Well, and I love hearing these Big 12 apologists come out there and say, "See, guys, we told you this is how football should be or is going to be played in the future." And the future did not include, at the time they were allowing all these points and the SEC defenses weren't. The future didn't include the fact that you can't hit somebody with your helmet, basically, and you can't stick your arm up to try to bat a pass down and accidentally connect elbows with a receiver. So, you're right. The rules have changed. The officials are clearly calling this for offense, and that's just the way football is going to go right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There was something else that I wanted to mention to you, JC, and I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, that's what happens when you have multiple concussions. You forget stuff. Buddy says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, no room for you guys on the Rays bandwagon. I ain't on the Rays bandwagon. I love the Rays. I grew up a Braves guy because that's all that was on in Mississippi, or WTBS. Watching Dale Murphy and Bob Horner and that crew.
That's right.
That's right. So I've always liked the Braves. What's amazing to me, because I love baseball, but I don't really watch it because they play so many games. I always tune in when they play the playoffs. This year reminds me. Remember the year that I think it was back to back when the Royals made the World Series, and they had a bunch of dudes that you had never heard of.
Never heard of Eric Hosmer.
That's exactly how pretty much all these teams are playing these days.
Well,
from the Rays and the Braves. I mean, you know who Freddie Freeman is. He's been there forever.
You do. But Marcelo Zuna. Well,
he's played for multiple teams.
Right. So, he's the journeyman guy who's knocking balls out of the park. And
real quick.
I'm with you.
Real quick, we got a Facebook Live comment, a question brought to you by Meldon Law, where you matter most. Greg wants to know what rules changed from last year to this year. There hasn't been a rule change, so to speak. But when I talk about when defensive players are afraid to hit the quarterback because you're going to get a 15-yard penalty, maybe thrown out of the game.
Changes how they play.
Defensive backs are not allowed nowadays to get physical with receivers. Jamming them at the line of scrimmage, you just barely touch a guy in his pass pattern, you're going to get PI. But DBs can't be aggressive either because they can't go and attack a receiver because they're going to get targeting and thrown out of a game.
Downfield. Linemen downfield.
Also, linemen can go down, they say a minimum of 3 yards, but it's more like 4 or 5. That is the most difficult rule change that is put on defensive players, because when you have a RPO, a run play, and guards are pulling, the linebackers and safeties are reading their keys, which are the linemen. If a lineman pulls, 95% of the time that is a run play. Well,
and then there goes the receiver
going downfield, and then the safety comes up and you're throwing the ball behind the safety.
It's over. It's over.
It's nearly impossible. That's why I had Jerry Odom on last week, who's a college football coach, a defensive-minded coach, been around the game for many, many years, basically said it's almost impossible to stop people. And I wanted people to hear that. Also, do you hear that noise, JC? It's
what?
The noise of basketballs bouncing.
Oh,
you hear it? You know why?
Why?
Because the Gators are practicing right now, basketball. Basketball started today. College basketball practice starts today.
Okay. Well, I'm happy. I'm really glad about that. I also heard that, and I can't confirm this, I'm not going to say, but it was a person who is going to the game on Saturday who will be in the Champions Club telling me that there's going to be an event in the O'Connell Center. Now, that event is going to have people around it, but you're telling me that students can't tailgate outdoors on campus a half a mile away from the stadium.
Yeah, I don't know.
So these are crazy times right now. I just hope that they get the game on. These players who are sick get well quickly, and that nobody else is infected. Obviously, we want to kick off at 4:00 and play LSU, the defending national champions, who are no longer really going to be the national champions soon, or the defending national champions soon, and who are unranked. So,
All right, JC, well, we're out of time already.
Well, Friday we'll have picks. Friday we'll
Yes,
have
we'll have our
picks.
Peachland Dentistry, JC and the QB picks. So good luck. Go do your study and do your homework. We will see you on Friday. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Stay safe, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.